Hello, everybody, and welcome to another RCT2 reviews. Today we have the pleasure of reviewing one of the newest Spotlight winning parks on New Element. It is only March when I'm recording this, and we might have already seen some of the best parks of the year, and this is definitely a contender for it. This is a group park by a number of folks. So Nin, Pacific Coaster, and Who's Leon each carried 20% of this park. Steve had 12%, and then going down from there, we have Extreme 97 with 7%, Bubsy 41 with 6%, Zarathustra with 6%, Otter Salad with 4%, Belgian Guy with 3%, and then AJ and Avenine Commuter with 1% apiece. So it's a huge group effort for this no custom scenery objects park based on the Wallaby Holland scenario. So the project started as a 15-minute park build where each person would take it for 15 minutes and build whatever they could and then put it back. And then it kind of turned into one heck of a glow-up as the team took it and really got involved and really improved the whole thing to levels that we rarely see, especially with no custom scenery parks. To me, this is one of the best-looking parks that I've seen in quite a while, and I'm really excited to go through it with you all. So why don't we start here in the entrance area and take a look at the beginning bit here. So this building, if you're familiar with the Six Flags Holland scenario, is part of the main entrance there, and it just has a much nicer looking detail now with these really kind of cool use of objects. So each of these little spires here is one of the entrances of the park, copied and pasted over. I think in general you're going to see as we go through this just so many clever object usage moments. So like these sorts of things. Look at these fountains here where we have the mini golf track that's layered underneath of it to give that fountain some different feel and a little bit of more detail in there. Absolutely beautiful in my opinion, and really just this whole area works great. I love this darker red brick playing off against the white and kind of the gray roofs with these green almost wrought iron looking structures. So for the entrance here you get the nice curves and everything, and then the barrel vaulting through this main entrance with the big glass doors on either side. So a couple of nice little shops and restaurants. You've got this great outdoor dining space here looking out over the water and across into the coaster here, and then also on the other side looking over, screened pretty well, but you can get some peeks in at the this area on the other side, this Greek Roman type area on this side. So you cut across to that side, but first we're going to take the cable cars that kind of go up and down this whole midway, ending at the edge of the midway here with the Flying Circus, a either an Intamin or say a Vekoma Island in the Sky ride, which is super cool. We've seen these done with a lot of custom scenery type work, but I think this might be the first one that I've seen in an NCSO park, and it's just done really well. I love the use of the golf hole down here, the circular platform for the whole thing, the space here for the arm and the counterweight, and it's just very incredibly well done throughout. Alright, so let's backtrack again, and we're going to cut over into the Greek area here first, and let's take a look at everything. So the color scheme really dominates each of these areas, and I think that's something that you're going to see as we get into each of the particular areas, that the color scheme really holds the thing together, and just all the architecture works really well as a cohesive force in driving home the theme, and it's just done incredibly well. There's just so much atmosphere in each of these. One of the things that I like is the use of the fountains and everything. It feels very kind of old school atmospheric park making. I almost get some Rivers of Babylon vibes with this whole thing, and then you have the modern touches like the custom rides here. So you have our Scream and Swing on this side with one heck of a cool queue line behind it with the curves and this whole pergola that goes around. I mean, look at this entrance. That's so cool with the statue there, and then kind of the triangular curve on the backside. Even with the posts here on the backside that have for the compressed air, it's just, everything was thought through and is done really nicely. Here we have one of the cooler looking flat rides. So this is the what is it? Sonari Spin, which I believe Zarathustra did the hack on this one, as he is one of the best at doing that sort of thing. Again, such a cool colonnade around the thing. The coaster track kind of blends pretty seamlessly into the rest of the space, and it just sits really, really well. The vehicle hacking on this is done well. The fountain in the middle is super cool. The coaster itself, that kind of dominates the area here, is Pegasus. But you'll notice it does use the wing coaster trains. I think this is the only instance of custom scenery thrown in there, but to be honest, I don't think anybody really cares as far as, you know, pure no custom scenery or whatever. I mean, I certainly don't. But this is one hell of a layout. I think Pacific Coaster did most of the layouts in the park, and it's not surprising. He is one of the best at that kind of design. So really, really nicely done as far as a wing coaster layout goes. You got your nice dive drop here, lots of crossovers, lots of these roll type inversions, and I love the use of the flowers here for the catwalk. It kind of gives it that little bit of grunginess that, you know, if you squint your eyes enough, it really reads like a catwalk, and it's a really out of the box consideration for something that a lot of people I just think would skip in this instance. Same thing for our little what I assume are to be lights down here within the ride restricted area. These little tombstone objects, very, very nicely done as far as that goes. Even got as much as the davit arm on the back of the maintenance area here, diagonal catwalk using the coaster lift hill track. It's all covered, and it all looks so nice. Using the signs here with the different textures and the text with the zeros or O's and the spaces, it gives you that nice border around the top on the pediments. So circle back to this side, and we have our water ride here. This is Voyage of the Odyssey. A pretty expansive ride for one. Got a really heavy, nice theme here as you come in through the queue line. I do like how this whole thing sort of takes the queue and the river ride as it comes up and into this, and the architecture surrounds it as you sort of go indoors and then into the building itself. We have a nice cutaway on this side, which shows us the theming that you might hint at throughout the rest of the space, and I like this approach. Cutaway view is great, but it's one of those things that I always find to be a little bit of a trouble to find the exact height that I need to cut down to, or sometimes I just don't even think about using it. So this is a really nice way to do it, and I like that they still added those realistic touches of hinting at the structure of the roof and things like that. But I mean, holy cow, look at this ship. The loop piece on the front from the looping coaster track is just, I mean, it's incredibly well done. We take a peek inside, and you can see it's a pretty sizable ride here. Got a couple of little drops in the middle, and then one larger drop here at the end. And what's cool to me is that the architecture of the building suggests what's going on in the ride itself. It's kept interesting, so it's not all just one big flat roof throughout. And it generally wouldn't be in real life. You're going to do this in sections. So I think it's very nicely approached here. So we have the sloped roof on the way up here to this final big drop, and it keeps the whole building low because there's really no reason for the entire building to be the same height as this upper area here. And then I think too, it's worth shouting out all the nice HVAC usage up here, and then these little bollards in the back, which I think are super clever, very cool. There's lots of little just fun NCSO tricks in here that are really, really cool. Our Jiro's stall, just buried in the corner there, lots of little detail. I think there's often a misconception that in no custom scenery building you can't get that tight, small level of detail that you can with custom objects. I really don't think that's true. I mean, you can get some really super cool little details throughout, and I mean, this can stand up against the best of them. I really think it's unfair to say that one has a handicap against the other. It really is, you know, incredibly nice to see, and this is honestly one of my favorite parks that I've seen in a long time. and you know, I call myself a CSO builder, and I tend to say that I prefer that, but um, there's really, it doesn't come into play here. I just like this project. I think it just looks great. So let's transition over into Egypt, and we can see, as we noticed here with the Greek area, everything just shifts across as far as color scheme goes, as far as overall architecture goes. We transition into this nice chocolate brown path that works really well up against the light brown of all the brick for the space, and then letting the rides do the talking as far as color goes. So we've got a couple of really interesting things here. First of all, just the placement of literally everything here. So first of all, we got the double shot tower here that's right within the inside of this nice big helix over or around the drop tower of the Zero coaster. Down here, there's this great sunken plaza with the Anubis entrance. You know, the pyramid merged into the Sphinx. Just really sits well. And then on this side, you've got the Sphinx hijinks. Clever. The El Loco coaster. Get your nice big sort of overbank turn right over top of that entrance. So just the whole thing sits really well within all of the spaces. Let's take a ride on the Anubis coaster here as we go around. This is a nice long zero kind of patterned after probably Jaguar at Knott's Berry Farm. I like how it interacts with all of the other different rides and the station itself coming over top of the building. Here you go underneath the water ride, and then have our long break run into the second little tiny lift hill here. I always love these long trains because you're at the top of the lift hill with the one before you're even onto the lift hill with the other. And a little finish here, and timed really well too. You can see that this one's just off the lift while the second one is up there, so working very nicely together. Again, back of house, very, very strong, very clean, almost too clean. I think that might be one complaint, is that it's so idealized, it is almost too clean, but that's okay. I love the little bizarre kind of shop stalls here. It has a Islands of Adventure vibe, in my opinion, just with all these sort of single buildings that have all these little open air markets that pull off of them with these planters throughout in the middle. Let's take a look at this El Loco coaster here, which is pretty cool, using the stand-up Togo trains, because I think that's the best option for here. Would have almost liked to have seen the custom vehicles used here, but I understand the want to keep that as much of a minimum as possible. Custom layout based on the real thing, so nicely done, and I think well put together for the whole thing. And then wrapping around the backside here, we have Curse of the Nile, which is a pretty spectacular log flume, just with the way that the layering goes. It just fits in here very naturally. It's squeezed into a kind of a tight spot, but it works well on its own, and even though it's almost sort of given a side roll here, I think it sits very nicely. Love the flooded Sphinx head here, and this final drop out, so you can really stand along the pathway here and kind of look down as it drops through the ruins and has the big splash. Great station. Just, I mean, the architecture on the whole is really on point. And one of the things that this does really well is screen this whole dark ride building on the back here. So this is the Egyptian dark ride back here, and you can see it's Escape from the Crypt is its name. But you have all this great theming, and it sort of builds up upon itself in layers, but you don't have the building in the way. Back here, I like the very kind of Disney-esque approach here of the flat building with these just parts and pieces stuck up to act as perspective architecture, kind of as you approach it. So you're looking at this kind of spire all the way out here from the pathway, so it just kind of looks like it's meant for that space, and this whole thing kind of acts as a great tableau as you walk in through the entrance. So another great cutaway here, sort of an Indiana Jones vibe with the monster truck ride. I love the diagonal use here and the little suspended bridge kind of look and feel. And again, as we're looking back here, you get some great peeks in the back of house, so just very clean looks throughout with all the warehouse buildings. And then even further back, You've got just outside the park here a couple of these greenhouses and these couple of threshers and other farm equipment for the small farmland areas. The use of the suspended single rail coaster is kind of nice for the um, the tracks, I suppose, for the actual equipment, and just using the mazes here for these little stacked pieces. It's just very, very nicely detailed and nicely put together, and it's incredibly readable too for something that's done with kind of some chunky pieces. It's reads very cleanly, very well. So this whole section of the park is separated by the river that runs through the whole map from one end to the other, and I think the river is made use of very well, especially with this garden car ride. This is another holdover from the Six Flags Holland scenario. So I love how it crosses the river a couple times, sticks out across, goes into the building, and just has really nice gardens throughout. It's a really good reminder that you don't need a hard and fast theme for everything. You can really just kind of landscape some things very nicely, and it will work just fine. Alright, so let's get back into the park a little bit here, and we can zoom out and see we've got about a third of the park that we visited so far, and then we can take a look at the rest of the park. So let's backtrack a little bit here, and we're going to go through this entrance building and then to the left. First thing we're going to get to is our rapids ride here. So this is Ripsaw River Run, and it's a pretty cool design overall. This is one of the last things as they were building the park that they got to kind of as a full overall design, and I think it was done incredibly well. It's compact and not terribly long, but I don't think it needs to be because it covers everything very well. It's going with the method of the lift hill at the end. So we start out with some rapid sections here, passing under and over a couple of the architecture pieces, and then end with the nice water wheel up the lift hill. Definitely getting some Disney California Adventure vibes from this building. Definitely have to point out the actual log conveyor belt here, super clever. I think that was another one of Zara's things. Very readable, and just a cool, clever hack using the vehicle hack plugin. Really nice to see those sorts of plugins and just hack ideas in general put to good use. So over top we have the this coaster here, which we'll get to in a little bit. So this is El Condor, their Batman clone. As it comes over, it's a little bit of an oddball thing in that it kind of belongs to the Mexican area back here, but it spends a lot of its time out here in the western area. Not necessarily a bad thing, I would say, but it's just the way that it kind of dominates the area. But we'll come back to that in a little bit. Great looking Dodgems building here. And then we get into our western area. So the first thing that we're going to come across is the Schwarzkopf Extended Speed Racer, which is something you don't see very often. It's a pretty unique coaster type with that spiral lift and a lot of these long, shallow drops and diving corners. These coasters were one of the kind of first early ones that were getting these huge corners, fast, like free-form drops and speed hills and things like that. So it makes sense that it was, not too aggressive, but it was still doing a lot. And I think this coaster captures that very well. Love the gravestone elements here for the supports over the water. Just a lot of nicely put together supports in general for the space. We go look on this side, the structure of the station itself is built with stacked mazes, which is a great way to get another texture in there. And then I'm loving the ride here, the High Plains Drifter. I don't believe the swinger is supposed to be spinning with it and opening up or not. But if it is, then maybe I just didn't think it was. But it was a great aha, do not fix. I think I fixed them all in the beginning, so it probably is just meant to sit there. Why don't we just let that close? So pretty cool design, pretty cool detail. I love the swing hack. Definitely a good hack. Here is a very nice cluster of buildings. Going with the Disney approach here, where we have one giant building. On the half is the Mexican side with all the themed facades on that side, and then on this side is all of the Western themed facades. So it's a good mix throughout. For the slope roof here, a nice way to get different texture is using the food stalls. And just throughout, very nicely detailed, nice themes along the power lines up above. Here's one of the stage shows throughout, and then next to it, this restaurant. I don't know if it has a name or not. But one of the things that I really love again is this great use of the spire from the station or the park entrance. I had never really thought that you could even copy that piece, but clearly you can, and you can do it well. Another cool use of pieces is here as we transition into the Mexico area, the candy cane pieces that you can stack together here and make this great arch. Very nicely done. I love the colors here with the yellows and the reds and the greens mixed in with the white. So you got that clean look, but very bright. One of my favorite rides in the entire park is this mock water coaster, which is honestly one of the best attempts I've seen at a mock water coaster, whether CSO or NCSO. Great looking layout. We got this diagonal lift and drop into a little coaster section here. Nice splash. Using that same main retention pond for the splash. And then coming up for the secondary part. A nice big drop up here. Block break. And then one big helix here to the final drop. I like the idea that we have this sort of temple architecture, but it's fully different and fully separated from the Egyptian architecture on the other side. So it looks like its own piece, it looks like its own thing. You're really not reusing ideas here, and it stands on its own without really making you think back to the other side. I love the splash elements here where the guests can come up and shoot the riders on the drop on both of these sections here, so you're probably going to get pretty soaked on the ride. Alright, so now we can look at the Batman clone. So this is El Condor. I like the use of the El Condor name just because the real scenario and the real park have an El Condor. So it's a very nice throwback to the real park where it's the end result looks nothing like the real thing, but you can see these nice moments from the whole thing. Kind of be reminded of what this came from and now is too. Love these supports on the lift hill. I think these are very, very well done. I think this might have been in. Did a very, very nice job on these. And just the overall landscape, atmosphere, and just plant collection, and the way that it's layered in here is thick, but it's layered in very well that just it works well and it looks good. This little village square here, or kind of temple, almost not temple, but church tower right here with the Mexican flag hanging elements overhead. I actually borrowed this idea from for a different park, which I couldn't get enough of this idea. I thought it was really, really clever. Very, very nicely done. Again, using those miniature golf course holes for the fountain. And then the hat dance ride, which is one of my favorite, and I know it caused so much controversy while the park was getting built, but the pumpkin is just so clever. The whole thing is just a big Mexican hat, and then burying the octopus rides here in the middle, or the octopus stalls. So you have the hat that's visible. Zara did another cool hack here with the bouncing back and forth. That's a really cool, clever idea. Just in general, I think it's done quite well. Alrighty, so we can continue along and get to the Sherwood Forest area on the back side here. Another great hint at the original park, since the wooden coaster here was Robin Hood. It still is. This was changed into Untamed at the real park, but we have instead a very, very nicely done CCI coaster. Pick it up here off the drop. Nice airtime hill up. Good turnaround. Loving that sequence of hills and curves and the way that it goes under and over the other elements of the track. flat section around here to the brakes. We're running 3 trains because we got the mid-course brake run. Again, timed very well. We're off of the mid-course while the other train's still on the lift hill. Pretty nice drop off of that mid-course with still plenty of layout to go. But enough speed to do it so it doesn't look too slow. I think this may well be my favorite ride in the park. I just absolutely love the layout. It's incredibly well done. The elements just flow from one thing to another. I'm relatively certain Pacific Coaster did this one, which he has a way with CCI coasters that I don't think anybody else can really come close to right now. So it's just super well done and really strong. It's a lot of cool stuff to see in here architecture-wise. The use of the glass with the kind of X crosshatch trim really used to advantage here. Get that sort of Tudor-esque architecture. We've got the super loop on this side. Called Siege. Nice hack too. Always one of the cooler hacks to do the super loop. One of the ones that I plan to show on my channel here at some point. But the star of this area, I think, has got to be the Globe Theater here with our King Lear. All the little booth seating as small monorail cars, just super clever. I love it. And then the architecture on the front is really well done. The Globe sign here made out of a rapids boat with all sorts of other stuff stacked on top of it. I mean, I can't even tell what it is unless I zoom way in on it. It's that sort of detail and stopping to think, okay, what if we layered this on top of this on top of this? I bet it would look like a globe. Like, that's the sort of detail and thought process that really makes this park shine into what it is. Well, somewhat kind of weird to say maybe, but this is also one of my favorite areas of the park. I love this little just walkway off to the side. It has some sort of Island of Adventure vibes and some European park vibes to me, where there aren't any rides, there aren't any stalls, there aren't any things to take your money. It's just a nice walkway with some great seating areas, some good theming. You got this excellent statue out here, same on this side. Good seating areas, and you can just sit and watch the fountain, sit and watch the coaster. It's very calm, very peaceful. It just feels real to me, and that's one of the things that I can really appreciate in park building is what feels real. And then finally, we're going to land in our in a medieval space here as we continue out of the Sherwood Forest area to a couple of different things. So the first thing we're going to get to is the SNS Sky SWAT. So this is Trebuchet. This was a thing back in the day in RCT. Everybody was building these. And this one's really well done. I think it's one of the better looking ones. The use of the space rings is clever. The single ring holding up the whole structure there. So a static flat ride, but still very cool. This is excellent to me, this ride back here. So this is Legend of King Arthur. But what's cool about it in me is that the way that this castle is put together, again, sort of this forced perspective with the landscape up over top, so you can kind of catch it from the bottom here as you look up into the space, and really keeping all those key facade elements. So it's definitely a park built for the guest view and not so much our view here at 3,000 feet looking down from it in the RCT builder's standpoint. This is a park that's built with the peep in mind, and that's one of those key things that I think separates a good park or great park from an exceptional park like this one. Circle back through here to the cutaway of this one also. Look at the chandelier using the Giga Coaster, or not Giga Coaster, the Roto Drop vehicle. Super well done. And then I love the long table here. You've got the King Arthur character. You've got the ABC Queen of the Realm, which that's another thing for you all. When I upload this one, you can download it in the description below, and make sure you do and spend some time looking at this park. There's a lot of little fun Easter eggs hidden around. Just lots of fun stuff from all the builders. There's signs for each of the builder, which I will let you all find at your leisure. More farmland back here with this tractor using the monorail. Again, just so clever of ideas that who would have thought you could make a tractor out of a couple of cannons, a monorail piece, and a monorail car. But it looks legit. It looks believable. Loving the carousel here with the circus on top and the Virginia reel and other track layered around it behind. I think that's incredibly well done. It has a very Disney Magic Kingdom feel to it, I think. I do like the shop also on the back side here. And then we get to the final coaster. So this is a Morgan Hyper Coaster. This is Excalibur. And I have a thing for Morgan Hyper Coasters. I do really like Morgan coasters in general. So this one's exciting. As the train exits here, we see the sword in the stone right there. A great entry piece. Love the terrace gardens on the way up to the station itself. Really subtle elevation change. And like on the whole, this park is flat. But you get in here and you get these little elevation changes and how one area works looking down upon another area. No park that you build should ever be totally flat. It should have this sort of elevation change and just overall look. Some pretty wildly detailed supports here. Very nicely put together, nicely done. It just looks correct. Ride ourselves all the way to the top. We've got our miniature golf walk on the side, and you can see bits and pieces of the parking lot on outside here. We have our nice drop into sort of a steel eel SeaWorld San Antonio sort of double element. Our airtime hill down into our high-speed helix, which is a key feature of Morgan Hypercoasters. Up into that mid-course brake run. Note the brakes on the diagonal, so that is a nice shoestring element there. And a couple of these airtime hills here on the way back, and our final brake on the end of the ride. Then just looking through the rest of this, I mean, the parking lot here is hinted at on the side. I don't think there's a necessity to keep that parking lot as big as some of the things need to be. It can just kind of be there on the side as a hint about what you're about to see. But on the whole, you know, this park is incredible. It's a big park. It's got a lot of stuff in it. I feel like it has an appropriate amount of roller coasters in there. I think there's often a want to pack coasters in, especially in scenario type play. But this turned from a original game scenario into one heck of a really detailed, aesthetic, and atmospheric park. And honestly, it's one of my favorites that I've seen in quite a while. And I gotta say, when it came to voting for this park, I ended up voting it yes to a spotlight, but I gave it an 85. And the more that I look at this, the more that I realize I was wrong. I really was. I voted it too low. I wish that I could go back and vote it a little bit higher, which certainly speaks to more time for voting in the future. So apologies for that. I'm glad that it still gets spotlight and a very good score at that. But I did not give this quite as much as it needed to be, but I've appreciated more of the nuance the longer I've looked at it, and just seeing the way that objects are used, seeing the way that everything is put together, the landscape selection, and just all the ride design and everything else. It really makes me look forward to seeing other group parks of this nature done. I love this concept of taking the scenarios and kind of giving them a glow up. So taking it and going back and just kind of retooling the whole thing, building it in a realistic way, adding in realistic rides, and keeping some of those recognizable elements, but really on the whole it lives on its own and can work kind of as its own thing, but you can still see those traces back to the original. So very, very, very well done there, and I think all the builders should be very pleased with this. It was a pleasant surprise, and I know that there was talk of kind of more of these types of attraction or types of parks, and I would love to see it. I'd love to build one, to be honest. This looks like a lot of fun. and it's just in general, I think it was really well put together. It's definitely tough when you have a big group park because you get a lot of opinions, and it takes some strong leadership, which I know Nin, Pack, and Leon were able to do to help wrestle a lot of opinions and a lot of cool, or a lot of variety of styles, I suppose, into one cohesive thing that is doable for everyone. And looks like it's not built by 9 or 10 different people. It looks like it came from one person with kind of one overall aesthetic. Something that often hurts on group parks, where you can tell where one person built and where somebody else built and everything else. So it says a lot about the management behind the park, I think, as to why this one came out as well as it did. Like I said, I will put a link in the description here to download this park. You really need to download it and sit and watch. I know we've given it a full review, but there's a lot more time that you can spend in here. I know I've spent quite a bit of time myself just looking and enjoying the park. There's lots of little Easter eggs to find, lots of cool little details to do, and interesting things. I feel like we're going to be seeing a lot of the same sorts of details that you see here lifted for use in other parks moving forward. So there's a lot to see, I think, and a lot that we'll see pop up elsewhere too, that these guys used as sort of a starting point. So until next time, let's zoom out and take one last look at this. Congratulations to everyone who worked on this park. Well done and well-deserved spotlight. Certainly do hope to see more of any combination of the whole team, but we look forward to all of the next ones. So until next time, thank you guys very much for watching, and have a great day. Bye now.